All right, hello and welcome to the Rain City Variety Pod. Today we have myself and my co-host Dax. I think this will probably be where you're hearing quite a bit of the content. Most of the content, I assume, would be coming through this, which is going to be us sitting down and chatting with people about. I guess you could think of it as an interview format, but we're just going to kind of chat with friends and get to know them and hear their stories and things they're good at and like to do. So for today, it's just myself and Dax. Dax, hello.
Hey, thanks for having me. I always thought about it. It was really funny. I always thought about this format and what we wanted to achieve out of this. And you always watch YouTube channels or podcasts, and they're always interviewing super interesting people. But there's also, what about the average person? Like what's this guy off the street up to?
Absolutely. Yeah, I think the idea for this podcast, honestly, is if you're hearing this, you know the people that are on it. Probably you might maybe not 100%, but there's a good chance you know them just because they're going to be someone we're friends with, or some just there's some connection that's really close to home to here. Unless we get some celebrities on here, but I don't think that's. I'll admit. Do you know who Bob Does Sports is?
No,
Okay,
who's
Bob
that?
Does Sports is a YouTube golf channel. And I was listening to their podcast, and on the Spotify you can do like Q&As, but Q&As is if I say something to you like the podcaster,
Hmm.
they can like talk with you, but to post anything they have to like post it, and nothing can be seen until they like allow it to be seen.
Okay.
So I told them, I was like, I love the podcast. I love your YouTube. Uh, I have the goal of one day having the Bob Does Sports crew on the podcast. And I was like, don't worry, at the moment, you will not know who we are, nor will you want to come on your podcast. But one day I hope we'll be on it. So one day if
Is
they
that
come on.
is that your number one? Like if you were to choose a single guest or channel to interview, would that Bob Does Sports be
Well,
from a realistic
yeah,
perspective?
from a
I'm not,
realist, yeah,
yeah, I'm
yeah.
not sitting here being like, well, out of anybody. I'm like,
Yeah,
well, yeah,
okay,
if we're gonna do
okay.
that, then I want someone like, I don't
Yeah,
know, Joe Rogan
okay, yeah, yeah,
or
exactly,
Shane
exactly.
Gillis, just someone that is in the
No, but
sphere.
someone that I actually could see. So, um, I let me think about it. I might change it, but I'd say probably yes. And the big reason I think it's actually possible is there's Bob Does Sports is Bobby Berger, who's the main guy, and he's a golfer. I think if he's playing well, he can shoot around an 85.
Okay,
And then there's Joey Coldcuts, who he's around like 100, but Joey Coldcuts is from Burnaby.
Joey Colcutt is a legendary name. Like
Yeah.
that's what I aspire to have a nickname one day. Just be like Dax Twix bars.
Yeah, and so anyhow, Joey Cold, and then there's Fat Perez and stuff, but like Cold Cuts is from Burnaby, so there's actually like I'm like, yo, like there's a chance we run into him. Yo, want to go on pod? Anyhow, um, yeah, we for today, what I think it is just going to be me and Dax chatting, and I guess we're going to kind of get introduce ourselves a bit as we just kind of chat, just to give the listeners an idea of who we are, and maybe kind of as we go forward with the podcast, there will be things that you can understand. Maybe we know actually have some knowledge about, as opposed to we're just kind of talking, or yeah. So that's kind of the thought. Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, I'd say we have a pretty diverse interest board in terms of what you and I both like. I don't know if I would say I'm an expert at any specific thing, but I do like a broad range of things. Like I think same thing as you, you
yeah,
know?
absolutely, absolutely. Yeah. Well, I mean, so I guess we'll just start with you. Do you want to introduce yourself a bit, or we'll go from there?
Yeah, I mean, he already introduced my name, obviously. My name is Dax. I'm going to be doing most of these co-hosting podcasts with Derek, and we just want to explore the sphere of just the regular average Joe. I think most people have something pretty interesting to say, even if they're nothing quote unquote special about them. But everybody has a unique type of story. I find like it's pretty interesting when you actually sit down and talk to someone and actually get to know someone. There's usually something you can pick out that's pretty interesting about that person, an individual.
Absolutely, absolutely agree with that. Yeah. Okay. So I'm just trying to think how, like, do you want to say what you do for work or let's start with your interests. Like, what are the main interests in your life?
Yeah, I mean, number one, probably in terms of a broad interest is sports.
Yeah.
I hate, and we always talk about this. I hate how much I love sports.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's so crazy, and it's not even like a love of one specific sport. It's like a love of pretty deep dive multiple sports. I'd say in no particular order. Obviously, there's the NBA, there's football, there's MMA. We're watching hockey right now. I do like myself some boxing. We've obviously apparently know quite a decent amount about wrestling. So it's so weird. But sports is probably up there. Definitely video games.
Yeah.
That's another thing. Movies is I didn't realize how much I love movies until I started dating Sarah.
Okay.
And she basically says to me, I can't believe how much you retain in terms of plot and actors. Doesn't make any sense. And then an extension of just things that I watch. I like fitness. Some sport, I'm still trying to figure out what that is. And we might get into that at some point, but trying to find an actual sport to play, right? But otherwise, just information. I just love like YouTube and reading. Those are pretty much my big broad interests.
Yeah, it's kid. That's one thing I'd say on the topic of movies and what you're saying. So Dax is engaged to Sarah, and I have a baby with Neve Simmons. So that's just to get that out of the way, so people know whenever we refer to them, because I'm sure they'll come up a lot. Your ability to. I remember one day we were watching a movie at Connor's house. This was back when he was on Chesterfield, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And we were sitting there watching it, and Gabe came over, and he was like, I think it was a long ass movie, and we were like an hour into a 3 hour movie, and Gabe came over and he's like, yo, what's going on? And I started explaining it to Gabe, and I looked over at you and Connor, and you were both like, that's not at all what happened. Like I was like, and you're like, did you even watch it? And I swear I was. And from that, I realized, okay, first off, that's also on me for I'm not very good at paying attention to like subtle story. Like I'm a very broad story arc guy, right?
Yeah.
But it also, after that, it clued into me how perceptive you are of like so many things that go on, which I also feel like translates into with all your sports knowledge and all your fitness stuff. You're always very analytical, in a like highly impressive way, in my opinion.
You know what? It's funny you bring that up. Connor is really good with the movie stuff too. Mm-hmm. He's probably, I mean, Neve as well, but Neve, it's a little harder to talk movies with her because her and I have we like a lot of the same things, but we also don't like a lot of the same things. There's a lot of things that I like in a movie that she doesn't.
Yeah.
So a lot of times we'll find like we'll talk about a movie and she just doesn't like it.
Yeah.
And obviously it's a moot point, but I find Connor is so good as well too when you talk movies or TV shows with him. And he's into stuff like how the movie was shot and like how certain things are staged and the acting, which is really interesting because he's probably like the only other person in my immediate circle that actually cares about stuff like that.
Do you care about that stuff?
I love it. I absolutely love it. I feel uncomfortable talking to Neve about it sometimes because obviously she's a film major.
Right.
But like I put in a lot of time watching and like researching a lot of this stuff, and Sarah can probably attest the amount of like movie podcasts I listen to in a given week.
Really,
is pretty crazy.
Interesting. I didn't know that.
Oh yeah, one of my biggest YouTube and podcast consumption are about movies. It's if I could have rewound my life somehow, I probably would have explored doing a little bit better in literature or review and maybe going into something like film, not film like directing, but maybe like film reviews or critique or like talking about it on pods.
Oh, really?
It's so cool, man. Like
it's not too late to do that.
It isn't, but it's tough. Like, especially when you don't, like, I don't have enough time in the day to do, if you actually listen to pods, they will break things down how like a sports analyst would. And you're like, there's no way I could have broke that. You know what I mean? Like there's just a level of minutiae and time you have to put in.
That is the thing that I think is really crazy is some of these things, especially some of the YouTube channels I follow, it the amount of research the videos themselves are always very impressive, but the amount of research that's throwaway information at the end of everything they do is so crazy. Um, anyhow, so moving on from movies, I think that's a fair point that you are you've always been very into movies. Um, fitness wise, for me, I feel like you honestly, I love fitness. I'm huge into fitness, everything. I like you. I love sports and on a crazy level. I attribute all my fitness in the gym what I know. So I have a really good anatomy knowledge from massage therapy,
Mm-hmm,
but
mm-hmm.
I attribute all my knowledge and fitness to you, to be
Oh,
honest. Like,
thanks, man.
yeah, like I've obviously picked up some things from other people, but like my bulk knowledge that I think is the best stuff I have is all from you. And I've always attributed that to you.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
because like you, I think it helped too because not only do you know everything, well, not everything, but you know like a ton, obviously,
Mm-hmm.
but you were working out with me, and I work so much on that level of you explain a whole bunch of stuff to me, and I can kind of understand it. But if you're throwing like a lot of the numbers and the literature of it, I'll like, okay, but it doesn't really stick. But then if as soon as you put that where I'm going, and then I start actually doing it,
Yeah, yeah.
I understand it. And that's what it was with you. Like you taught me like my hip hinge and everything, dude. So many people come up to me when I'm at the gym. It's so weird. Like trainers, they'll be like, your form on your hip hinge and your squats, it's so good, and this and that, and all these things. I'm always like, thank you. And it's literally all from you.
Do you know what's funny? I probably want to say like right around COVID or post COVID, I fell off the gym super hard, like really, really hard. It was like right after I tore my pec, all I was doing was rehab, and I basically spent like 90% of my time away from work. And obviously, because things were closed,
Yeah.
in either like the physio clinic doing rehab or like at the gym doing rehab. And so, from like a period of like maybe a year and a half ago, I fell off like super hard from the gym. I just didn't have like any motivation to do it.
Right.
Um, and it's funny, like trying to get back. I've been getting back into it again. It's like trying to strip down like right from the beginning, like the easy like, vanity lifts, right?
Right.
But I'm hoping to get back into like what I was doing prior. But it's like it's such a long journey back, especially when you like. It's so hard to compare what you were doing before to what you're doing now. But it's like that with anything.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, dude, I think I'm actually I'm going so I genuinely think so what is it? I think it's been 7 years I've basically worked out 2 to 3 times a week. I've
Mm,
for sure done compound squats, front squat, deadlift,
mm,
pretty much religiously, and pull ups. And it's so crazy, like the journey when I think of all the things I went through to get to like just where I am now. And I'm going back into lifting heavy because I feel like you have to do that. You like, there's first basically to me, the way it works is there's general fitness. So when you first start going to the gym, it's kind of like you said, you just got to get back into like getting moving and everything working again. But then once you truly set in, you kind of have to go through this thing of like you become heavy and strong and do all the heavy lifting, and then you kind of hypertrophy out, and then you get more lighter and more agile and like loose, mobile, all that stuff, and you just kind of like go like that.
mhm,
Or at least that's how I feel like for me to stay motivated to keep going is that kind of thought of like it's super fun to kind of like go through all of those
mhm,
progressions.
mhm.
Do you think you would ever do it where you bulk up huge again?
Uh, I always thought about it and I've wanted to. I just don't think my body can actually handle the amount of load anymore.
Yeah.
Um, like I look at photos from like 10, like I guess 10 years ago was the last time I really, really like really put in the time to lift heavy. I mean, when we were together, when we were working out together, I was lifting heavy, but I was lifting all that stuff consistently. But I don't ever see myself like squatting heavy again or deadlifting heavy again, particularly because of my back injuries.
Yeah.
I don't want to play around anymore with the type of rehab I had to do for my back. It's just not worth it to me.
Yeah.
And then the big limiter for me for heavy bench press at this point is my pec, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
like I fully ruptured my pectoral tendon, and I don't have any limitations in sort of range of motion. I don't have limitations for when I do push-ups. I certainly can increase my weight, but part of me is also, I also know, despite how much like rehabilitation I put in, I also work full time. So the amount of recovery I should be putting in if I'm lifting heavy on a previously torn and ruptured pec, the chances of re-injury are
Very
just so
high.
much more. And
Yeah.
I just don't have the routine anymore like I was when we were younger to be able to invest like 3 or 4 hours at the gym and my recovery. Like,
Yeah, well, that's the thing is it was like when I think of it now, just as you're saying that, I was thinking like it was twice a day a lot of the times at the gym, and then something like a spin class you were doing, right?
yeah, well, when we first met, like not when we first met, but when
Started
we first
hanging
started
out again at the
hanging
gym
out
and all
again,
that, yeah.
I was like, I was teaching jujitsu, right? So if you remember, I taught the morning class,
Mm,
and if you remember, I also was obsessed with like morning running for a little while.
yeah.
So I would get up at like 4, go for a run, and then go teach jujitsu. Then I would have my 8-hour job downtown,
Yeah.
right? I'd come home, I'd walk Django for like an hour. I would meet you at the gym, and we would bang out like. Do you remember we used to do those like really intense hit
Oh,
workouts?
dude. Okay, the thing that I couldn't get over was every workout was like I was dying because like the thing was I was getting in shape, but it's not like I was like a fat fuck. I just
No, no, no,
wasn't in
no.
like really good
Yeah,
shape,
yeah, yeah.
and every time, every time I would be dying, and you would be crushing them. But then, like you said, like and then so what would happen after that?
I would do 2.5 hours of jujitsu. So I'd go to like the 1 hour beginner class, and then I would go to the 1 hour advanced training and sparring, right? And then that was basically like 5 or 6 days a week. I would do
Dude,
that, right?
Dylan Kirby's gonna listen to this because he was at the gym as well all the
Yeah,
time
yeah,
with us,
yeah,
right? And
yeah,
he's gonna laugh so hard because he always is like, dude, Dax is on another planet. He's like a psycho. And I was like, I know, it's
yeah,
crazy.
yeah.
Because dude, the thing that I couldn't get over was you and Alex McMorty are on the same, like, I guess, like, orbiting the same planet. The two of you, like, no, I would do so much stuff because I would do double gyms. By the end, I was doing double gyms and I'd be playing soccer or I'd be biking around and all this stuff. But it was still, you guys would always be doing more. Anyhow, Dylan Kirby is gonna laugh so hard when he hears that what you just said
Okay, so but you know what's
there.
funny? Like I'm pretty sure it's the reason why I got hurt so catastrophically. You
Well,
know
okay, that's fair.
that
That's
like
fair.
like I did that for maybe 2 years from like 20 when we started hanging out in like end of 2017 through to like 2019, early 2020.
Yeah,
But I also attribute it to like literally my entire body breaking down. Like my back was so bad by the end of 2019, and then I got T-boned.
yeah.
Um,
That really is what fucking set it off. Hey,
yeah, yeah.
that's so crazy.
But
Because
if you remember we were doing like the Spartan workout and my back went out,
yeah,
that was like the spiral, if you recall.
right.
And then right after I hurt my back, it took me a year to get back into like any gym shape. And then I started getting back into the gym and I started like redoing that again. I was doing jujitsu like full time. And then I tore my pec, right? So I think, yeah, it was really cool to do that. And it was really cool to say that I did that. And like at the time, I was probably in like the best shape I was in my
Was it
entire
like,
life.
hey, were you tired all the time, or were you feeling good?
No, I wasn't. Because do you remember I would also go out and then we would get
Oh
up at
yeah,
like
we'd be
7
partying
in the
so
morning.
hard.
And
Yeah.
remember, you were like, what are you going to do? Like, well, we'll go to spin. And then I want to go to open mat for like 2.5 hours.
Okay, and that too. Uh, this is back when I lived down at the waterfront there at the Pinnacle
Yeah,
buildings.
yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
that place was $2,000 a month. And at the time, everyone was like, what? That's fucked up. Who can afford 2 grand a month on apartments?
Yeah.
And it was like the best. It was okay, it wasn't huge, but for a 1 bedroom apartment, it was really big.
It was bigger than this
It was
place.
bigger than this place. The balcony was huge. It was all like it was really nice because it was the sub penthouse.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was really fun times. I would say though, okay, that's just one thing that when I think of health, the biggest thing I've realized is number one is sleep. Number one is sleep. So like if you're working out and you're eating right, that's really important. but you have to prioritize sleep the most because your body needs to recover. And that's like a new thing because I've always thought sleep's important, but I've started myself to do. I used to be, I'm tired, I gotta go to the gym, but because why? Because like you have to, and I started now to replace the gym with like a nap, and it's been a really big thing for me. So I've noticed I recover better, I'm stronger and more able to do stuff. But the thing with that statement is you have to be honest. So you have to actually be working out and eating healthy, and
Yeah.
when you're not going to the gym, you are sleeping.
Are you a good sleeper?
Um, I'm actually good at napping, but I'm not a good
I'm a
sleeper.
terrible sleeper. And
Really?
I used to be able to sleep pretty long periods of time, but lately I find myself like up past 12 and then up like and then not be able to wake up in the morning, you know?
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, whereas like it was the inverse before where I could literally do anything and I could get up. Like my alarm would go off and I'd be like, I'm up, let's go do something.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a terrible sleeper lately.
Um, I think the biggest thing for me I've noticed is I read a lot before bed, even if it's just a few pages. Just in and I what I do is it's dark in the room and I have a little headlamp that I put a red light on.
Mm-hmm.
So it just I don't know how to explain it fully, but I'll give it my best try. I feel like the light, there's the blue light from your phones and all that stuff. There's that kind of light, and that one does keep you awake.
Yeah.
I still feel like even if you're not looking at blue light, if there's light on, it does still kind of have the same effect of you're awake for a bit.
Mm-hmm.
So what I find with the red light is it's such low light, it doesn't affect your eyes very much. And so when I'm reading, I feel like there's this like halo around my vision, and over the course of like 5-6 minutes, I can see that halo it like fades out and it's like white, but it's not blurring my vision at all. It's not like I'm like a blind spot. It's just kind of like, I don't know, it's hard to explain, but that's the best I can. And I find that if I do that, I have a way better sleep.
Okay.
And and sometimes
interesting.
I'll read for like half hour in the pitch black with my little red light. Sometimes I'm more like actually tired. Like just read for like 5-6 pages.
Yeah,
and I do it, and it's helped me.
I got a question for you.
Yeah.
How many hours of sleep do you get per night, would you say? Because I'm telling you right now, for me, I do not get enough sleep.
5 or 6.
I get 6 or 7, but it's like broken sleep.
See, I think now that I have Juliet, when I fall asleep, I do, but it depends. It really depends. Like maybe 7. It's just, the nice thing is me and Neve are again both good at napping. So I actually have, like I said, been able to sleep because I'm like, okay, you know what? Instead of doing something dumb like before, for example, like the fact that I've got off social media, that alone has just changed my life. And like, I take a 20-minute nap, and it's like, where do you get 20 minutes from? I guarantee you, most people have 20 minutes they could use where over the course of the day they've just been looking at their phone.
So, I mean, obviously your situation is different because you got a kid, and that's going to change your sleep patterns regardless.
Yeah, if it was normal, I'd say I'd be more like 6 to 7 to 8 pending kind of thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But with a kid, that's just what it is.
Yeah. I mean, like you take what you get, right? Yeah. I don't know, but I presume that like it's just
honestly, Neve's a beast mom. She makes it pretty easy. Like the days I don't work the next day, she'll wake me up pretty early and ask me to like in the middle of the night go get bottles and stuff. But for the most part, it's like when I'm working, she allows me to sleep, so I can't complain.
Yeah. I'm also jealous that you guys can nap so well because Sarah's a really good napper.
Yeah.
And she will nap for like 20 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever amount of time. I can't nap at all. Like my brain, if it's on, it's on.
Do you even try?
If I do, I'm done. Like when I wake up from a nap, it doesn't matter. People are like, well, it's because you're napping too long. Like you got to set a timer. It doesn't matter. Like if I interrupt the flow of my day with a nap, I come out of it and it's whatever after that is just ruined.
Interesting.
Like the last nap I took was, do you remember when I took off from your place and my godson was born? Yeah. I mean, I was up all night there. So I got home at 8 a.m. and I went, okay, I want to say I went right to bed, but we watched Backlash.
Yeah.
So we watched Backlash. I went right to bed and I napped and I woke up from that and I was just a mess. And that day was a write-off.
Yeah, but that was because you didn't sleep at all because you were up all night. That's way different.
Yeah.
But I mean, all I'd say is, have you tried? Because like I used to not, and what I would do is I just thought of it because for the longest time when I would take a nap, I'd set an alarm for 20 minutes and I'd put on some like lo-fi music or something, just chill background sounds, and I just sit there and I'd be like, you know what? At least if you sit there for like half hour, 20 minutes with your eyes closed and breathe, you can just like wander in your mind, but it's kind of just like chilling your body out to rest. But then over time, I just started kind of conking out and falling asleep. But again, it is the thing that's unfair is a lot of this now is to do with the kid. I didn't nap before kid.
Yeah.
I always had enough energy, so I didn't need to.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'd say you've done pretty good to recover from all your injuries in life. Is that, or not like your major injuries? Like you're pretty good now, right?
Yeah. My big injuries are all good.
Yeah.
Like I don't have any, I mean, the big one is like, I don't want to say I have any limitations in my torn pec, but there are times where I'll do something where prior to tearing it, I never felt it.
Yeah.
And now I have awareness of it, but it doesn't limit me from doing it.
Right. Okay. Okay, now let's move on to some more of your more interests, I guess. Like, would you prefer to start with like video games, movies, what you read, or just maybe even something you're more interested lately as opposed to something that's like a more like themed interest of your whole life? Is there just anything like that?
Maybe I'll switch it up because we just talked about my interest for a while. Yeah. So let me pose the same question for you.
All right. Sure, of course. I like it.
So you give me something then in terms of maybe you don't go through the whole list that we just did, but same question to you.
Okay, so I like Dax, have a huge like thing into sports and stuff like that. So, but I'll save that for down the road because we've talked quite a bit into that.
Yeah.
I'd say one of my biggest interests and passions and all is I love nature, everything. Everything like animals for sure. Dogs, I'm obsessed with. Neve will tell you it's like ridiculous how much I love my dog, but just dogs in general.
Yeah.
But I'm a big nature guy. So in 2015, I lived up in Kitimat, way up north, and I spent 2 years there being an RMT, and I got to spend a ton of time outdoors, just in nature, enjoying like true wilderness. I don't want to say anything bad about the backcountry and hikes around here. They're all gorgeous and you get these like serene, picturesque views. And even when you go up to Squamish, it's very wild. It's true nature out there. But Kitimat is 16 hours north. And like there was, I think, like 4,000 or 5,000 people in the town when I lived there. So I got to do some wicked ass nature hiking and camping in the middle of nowhere. And I'd say that's one thing that I haven't got to do in the last couple of years. I was supposed to go canoe trip with Connor, Gabe,
last year,
and I got COVID 2 days.
I remember that. Yeah.
And honestly, as disappointed as I was, I genuinely think if I had gone on that trip, I could have died because my
You got really sick.
Yeah, remember I had the heart issue and all that.
You got as sick as I did in the fall.
Yeah.
Right, but you were like really sick in July.
I had to go to the hospital because my heart one night was all fucked.
Yeah.
So it was good I didn't go. It was the right play, but because I genuinely, and Connor, I know will say this for sure. I'm sure Dylan and Gabe will agree. If you once a year go out into the middle of nowhere, somewhere just away from cell phones, away from it, and you can even bring a cell phone and watch some shit on it or take pictures, just like out of the like signals in the city in that bombardment, and you just sleep, it just resets your everything so much. The best example I can give was we did the North Coast Trail, and we go do the trail and we're gone for 7 days, right? And I get back from the North Coast Trail and you have to drive for, I think, like an hour and a half down a dirt road until you finally can actually use your cell phone. And so finally I've had my phone and we're like, oh yeah, service. It starts pinging with all these messages coming in. You
guys did that recently, right? Like that was the last one you did with like Steve and
Yes,
Nathan.
but this was the first time we had done it. So
okay.
This was before that one.
Okay.
And to give you a time frame of when it was when Serena Williams broke her tennis racket because she was mad because she lost a match on a bad call, and Colin Kaepernick took a knee.
Oh, that's a while back.
That's a while back. And all I remember was I was just like so mellowed out, and it was me, Connor, and Andrew, and we're just like, yo, man, isn't the earth amazing? Like, so mellow.
Yeah.
And then I get these messages, and I was just laughing so hard. I was like, the world, like, or at least all the Western media, everything we see is caught up in Colin Kaepernick taking a knee during the national anthem and Serena Williams smashing her tennis racket. And it's like, it's polarizing people. And I'm just sitting there going, man, people need to just go away from the world for like a week, and you'll realize how just crazy the world is.
It's funny you said that. So my cousin Josh, he recently like started getting into nature stuff. Okay. So he's a big like I guess you call it bouldering, right? But he's also starting to do rock climbing. Okay. But he spent like the last few months basically purchasing a bunch of camping equipment and just gear and all that. And he's randomly just wanting to go on like one night trips. Yeah. And him and I were talking because he's also one of the godfathers to the kid that was born recently. And we were about to say, I was telling him like, man, I'd really like to join you just on a whim. And he was actually thinking of going tomorrow, but it's going to rain, right? But it's crazy you said that, because literally like 2 days ago, I told Sarah that I'm going to start doing like these like 1 or 2 day. Hey, I'm just going to take off for the evening with Josh, and my parents, like, they have their tent and they're too old to like really like camp on ground now, so I'm just taking all of their camping stuff off of them just so I have it available, and it's something I want to do this summer. Just like, not in terms of just like, you know how there's camping where it's like there's like this campsite and we're going to plan as a group to go camping. I really want to just like unplug and get away from everybody.
Yeah, dude, I know that's what camping's for. I don't know, it's weird. I don't want to live in the middle of the wilderness nowhere.
No, me neither.
Nothing, because it's too hard. Anyone that thinks it's nice, like, it would be nice if you had everything. So imagine you had like a house with perfect power, internet, a freezer that just stayed stocked forever, and you could just like have all your creature comforts and then walk out into the middle of nowhere. That would be beautiful, but that's not the reality of like what that is, right? That doesn't happen.
Yeah.
And nature is cold, hard, but it's fucking beautiful. And it's your battery, dude, I'm telling you, that's like genuinely for my soul. That is, I tell clients this and shit too. If they're like super in the city and they're like, I don't know, let's say a lawyer or some like realtor, that they're all in like the money of the city and the flow of it, and everything's on their phone all the time, and they're super stressed. I'll tell them sometimes, I'll be like, have you ever gone like camping or anything? And some of them have, because the thing is, in BC, people do camp, so it's not as like
more than other places.
Yeah, so it's not as like a crazy thing. But sometimes they'll be like, I haven't in so long. That's more of what it is, as opposed to like, no, I would never do that. And people do it, and they always tell me like, oh, I needed that, because there's just I genuinely believe that everything gives off like electromagnetic fields and stuff, and they affect you in different ways. And it's not this profound thing of like, yo, you're sitting next to a plug and now you're depressed, but it does, like, everything interacts. And I think that when you're away from all of the city out and you're actually in nature, it's the way I picture it is like, you're like, everything's like kind of like this vibrating, but then you get back into nature and you're truly away, and it just goes like, and just kind of gets into a nice flow. So yeah, that's, I think, one of the more, probably anyone that's known me in like latter life in the last maybe like 7-8 years that knows me might not know how hardcore I camped. Like, I genuinely, when I was 19, I went camping with Connor and me and Faker. I don't know if Faker was there, but I think he was. And we went with Blake Vandenbosch, who's Declan, Connor's brother's friend, camping at Weaver Lake. And all it was Blake had tents, a barbecue, and like a cooler and a little boat. And he drove us over in the boat, and we'd all just like get hammered and camp. And he had guns, and we wouldn't drink and shoot. We were not stupid. Like, we actually wouldn't. I'm not just saying that for the pod. Like, we'd go shoot when we were like in the morning and stuff, but we would just party. But Blake was doing like all this shit that was to me was so insane. Like we were he was showed us how to catch and gut fish like so easy. Like I know how to gut a fish and it's like it's so easy. Or I shouldn't say so easy. I just know how to do it.
Mhm.
And he showed us how to do that. He showed us like all these things instead of just like everyone knows how to make a TP campfire, but he was showing us like all these cool different things to do as opposed to just like generic camping because he's actually an outdoorsman, like goes hunting and all that.
Mhm.
And me and Connor were like, this is so fucking sick. But I think it's because both his dad and both my family has a cabin in Shuswap, but my family's like very much like they go to a cabin, they go like it's not like outdoorsy.
Yeah.
And Paul and Connor's family is the same. So for us, I think it was just so wild.
Yeah.
And we just from then we basically spent a decade collecting camping stuff. Like I have an amazing tent. I have multiple sleeping bags, axes, knives, like everything to go camping. Me and Connor between us can outfit 4 people camping.
Whoa.
Yeah, on top of our own selves.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. So that's one cool thing that I think about myself is I'd say I'm a proficient outdoorsman. But I would never say I'm like a wild one because I know the guys that are wild. A lot of hunters are way crazier than me because they can gut stuff like
Mhm.
natural. But I've done a canoe trip. It wasn't the one with Connor, but we've canoed before. I've done so much camping in the middle of nowhere up north where there's like grizzly bears and shit. I've come face to face with the grizzly bear,
Mhm.
and that was terrifying experience. I don't even want to talk about that one right now.
Mhm.
I'll save that for a different pod because that was just crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that's something cool about me.
Did you guys like when did you start getting into? Because obviously I never grew up, and maybe it was never the fire was never stoked to go do outdoor stuff. Or if I did go camping, it would be like you would go to a provincial park and you would like book your pen,
Right.
and there'd be like electrical things and showers and whatever, right? How did you guys like start doing that on your own? Like once Blake, obviously, like how did you guys start like exploring that and like doing
Yeah,
something
that's a
like that
great
on your own?
question. So Weaver Lake is a provincial park up in Mission in the foothills. It's like if you look at Harrison, Harrison's the giant lake, and then pretend you're looking at Harrison. It's running north. It's in this giant valley. And you go up the valley, and if you drop down the backside of that one hill on the left, there's a Weaver Lake, and it's like a puddle compared to Harrison.
Mhm.
So it was me, Connor, Reese, Jamie, I think Bergen.
Oh, Jamie. I ran into him the other day. Sorry, keep going.
Yeah, Fakra, and I think one other person, it might have been Gabe. We just literally were like, oh, we can do that. And me and Connor had bought like $50 tents from Canadian Tire. This was actually one of the most monumental dumbass things. We hiked up there and we thought it'd be easy. So like none of us had any
At Weaver?
At Weaver. And
Okay.
you can hike in. We boated in, but you can hike in, but it's like a 2-hour hike.
Okay.
But the thing was, none of us had any gear. Like now. Like I have all these backpacks, you can attach all the shit, blah blah blah. Back then we had like a sleeping bag you'd car camp with, which is this huge thing, not a packable one. I brought like 3 shirts, 3 shorts, all like so much stuff. And so we do this hike in, and I think we might have eaten mushrooms too, but we had for sure been drinking on the way in. And we get to the campsite, everyone's exhausted. It was way too hard of a hike. We we just were so dumb. And what we brought, we get there. The people that were bringing the cooler, I think it was Reese and Bergen, but I don't want to call them out because I can't remember, but I think it was them. They decided instead of bringing the food in the cooler, they filled it with only beer. And no one had any food. I had a bag of Skittles, Connor had 2 bags of chips, and that was like all the food we had. And we so we literally just ate mushrooms and partied that night and like ate what we could, and then just had to leave the next day. And we were supposed to stay 3 days.
Oh my goodness!
So it was so stupid of us, but honestly, like that's how we got all our camping knowledge. Is
you screwed up.
You fuck up, and like obviously that was really dumb, but we were actually 19. We were just stupid, right? Like,
yeah.
We brought a cooler full of beer, and no one thought like maybe we should bring more food, kind of thing. Anyhow, yeah, I'd say the best you can do is plan out all your stuff and do logistics, which I think you would really like. The logistics of it's all. It's so fun being like, yeah, this. You make like everything out. Can I pack it all in? Is it heavy enough? And you just make as many mistakes as you can.
Yeah. I don't know if I would ever do like a long, unless like someone like did it with me, like the West Coast. Like, but I'm just talking about like a single night excursion or like 2 nights. Like you go somewhere. I feel like all I would need is a car, a tent,
Yeah.
sleeping bag, and a grill.
Well, yeah. If you're willing to do it car camping, which I'm not against car camping, by the way.
Yeah.
I think car camping is an awesome experience in its own
Yeah.
right. Yeah, car camping's great. Yeah, like you said, you could even sleep in the back of your car if you really
Yeah.
wanted to.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you have a grill, uh, I'd bring a tarp to put over your tent.
Yeah.
And then you can go like if you go up to Pemberton, everyone goes to Squamish now, and Squamish is not a good camp zone. It is, but it's so busy. It's like so. I'm pretty sure you have to like book way ahead. Pemberton, you show up and there's like kilometers and kilometers of lakeside pull-ins.
I think you could find there's I mean, it's been 10 years now since I actually did this, but there are places in Squamish and in between Hope and Merritt where you can find places where you can just park in the wilderness and like you don't have to book anything and just
Oh yeah,
camp in the wilderness.
well that no, that's what I mean about Squamish. So that like you're right, but Squamish, there's so many people go there now that
Hmm.
you have to drive like so far into the wilderness. And
That would be kind of nice though.
but you'll still find so many people. Is what
Yeah.
I'm saying. Like you'll go to the end of the road, and you might still run into a lot of people
Oh, okay.
because it's so overpopulated. Whereas you go to Pemberton, and then like you're saying, that will happen. But it is, yeah, like so many places you can go. You just have to be willing to go a little further.
Hmm.
I've always had that attitude about when you're like doing any outdoor stuff. If you want to see the really nice stuff, you just have to be willing to put in more effort. Like Mike Lindsay, he's someone I think we should interview. Mike Lindsay is super cool dude. Like he's
Yeah.
super interesting. But he sees like he's someone when I think about why I'd say I'm like a proficient outdoorsman, he's someone I think of that I'm like, this guy's so legit because he will like climb mountains and go into the middle of nowhere, like actually nowhere. Not like, oh, let's go on the West Coast Trail and
Yeah.
it's far away. He'll just be like, I want to go to that mountain. What is it? I don't know. It's some weird little untagged one on the map, and I'm just gonna check it out.
Yeah.
So he's an impressive ass outdoors.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wish that was something that I was like really into. I can't say I like the outdoors, but I can't say I'm like passionate about it to that extent. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I feel like to an extent, like there's you like give and take. For example, like you are either like super into that, or like you're super into like bowling, or like
Right.
you're into this, or you're into the gym. Like, do you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
you give
Yeah.
and take
Well, that's what
pieces
it
of
is.
things,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Because you're never going to find someone unless they had all the wealth in the world, which also equates all the time in the world,
True.
where you could be so proficient at so many things because you don't have to spend 8 hours of your day doing something to make money to live on a day to day. You
True.
know?
Yeah. Very true. Yeah. For me, the wilderness. I think me and Connor used to be like really hardcore into it. Like there's points we'd go and spend 2 days in the bush and there'd be nothing. We'd go. We're like, okay, we're gonna leave here, walk for half an hour, and then we're gonna turn in the bush, walk for half an hour, and just build a camp and stay there. And that for me, it was fun when we were younger, but as time went on, like now, it's just not something. To your point, it's a lot of time and effort, and it's really rough.
Hmm.
Like that show Alone. Have you ever heard of that?
Yeah, I watched a bunch of it.
Okay,
Yeah.
so that show, man, those people are so fucking rugged and crazy because the thing you don't understand until you're out and you're actually like alone and working really hard is calorie counts.
Mhm.
Like you notice. So when you're doing the West Coast Trail or the North Coast Trail, you have these heavy ass backpacks on. I think the heaviest I had was a 62 or 64 pound backpack.
Mhm.
And you're walking for kilometers a day doing all this stuff. You'll hit points where you genuinely can't really move your feet. Like you're barely sliding. And you have to get over these logs and you're just like, I just gotta stop. I just gotta stop. And you lean against a log or sit down, right? And you're so drained and you have a little water. And then you take like one handful of nuts or you take a little like pouch and take it, whatever, some energy or some Skittles. And the impact that has like 2 or 3 minutes later on your energy reserves to keep going is so crazy. So whenever I watch that show, I'm always like, man, it must be so intense because you see them and they're like, yo, I'm going to go over there. I'm going to chop down 3 trees and make this nice fort. And you're impressed. You're like, wow, I can't believe they made that nice fort. But really, it's crazy. They had the energy to just like chop all that shit down and they are not eating anything.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I presume it's similar to long distance running. You know, that energy caloric
Yes. Yeah.
deficit. Obviously, for them, they're expending it all in such a short duration amount of time that I bet you if the same thing, like you said, like if they pop one of those gels or whatever runners or long distance ultra marathon people do, that's probably the same feeling they get as the response to your body to that sudden intake of calories, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. And then, so yeah, that, another thing I'd like to, so I love nature. That's a really cool thing. One sec here. I'm just going to start a new segment. All right, and we're back. Thank you to our sponsor, Prime Energy. That was great, wasn't it, Dex? What a funny Prime commercial. Okay. So what was I wanted to talk about something. Goddamn, I just lost my train of
Well, we
thought.
were rifting off of the end of the nature thing, right? And then you were about to get into something else, but
Yeah,
that's okay. We can talk about your love for, you know, I mean, Derek wants to get a tattoo, and
oh yeah, I want to get a tattoo of my daughter Juliet. Oh, I was thinking of getting on my over my heart on my chest, but my only worry is if it's because I my chest shrinks and grows because I do different workouts. Like I'll bulk and shrink out for soccer and stuff, and I'm just worried if that might affect the tattoo and make it like stretch out and stuff. Because
yeah, yeah,
it's genuinely over the course of like a year, it actually happens. I stop playing soccer and I get a bit bigger, and then when soccer starts, I lean out.
yeah. Well, especially if you're gonna get like a tattoo of like your daughter's face, right?
I'm
Like
not getting
it's
her
gonna,
face.
I mean, like you're gonna get like like a expanding and then a shrinking of her face.
Okay, this is the next thing I want to talk about that I'm really interested in is I really love history. I
Hmm.
love history is all history I think is cool. Even like modern history, like things that are going down, like that just happened and stuff, I think is very interesting. But my favorite is ancient history, like go way back, like what's
Hmm.
Machu Picchu, the pyramids, all those things I think are by far my favorite. And every time I travel, I'm not gonna lie, the first thing I do whenever I go to a place is I look to see all the ancient sites that are like ancient history.
Oh, cool.
It's my yeah, like when we were in Peru, we saw Machu Picchu, we saw Sacsayhuaman, it's sexy woman bait. Like when you go there,
Sexy.
no, it is. It's Sacsayhuaman or something like that.
Yeah.
But it basically looks like sexy woman.
Okay.
And when it's in Cusco. And when you're there, they're like all the white people. I'll be like, because went with Carrie and Connor, and I was her translator, but I know very like shitty broken Spanish, but it managed. And everyone I talked to when I was trying to say it, I was like, "Hey, Juama," they're like, just say sexy woman. They'll know what you're talking about. Okay. But yeah, I love like all history. So cool. That's one of my favorite things. I think that when I'm alone, I'm just kind of cruising, and if I, sometimes you sit down and you're like, I'm gonna go on YouTube or something and look
Yeah.
into something you have no clue. I always just end up looking into history for
Oh,
the most
cool.
part. Yeah.
I actually will probably, I'll definitely echo that. I'm nowhere near, and I'm going to say this right now. I'm not like a history expert. I don't know
No,
the minutia and the details,
me either.
um, nor can I memorize dates and faces. But I went through a pretty big history phase from 2016 to like 2021, 2022. Like I remember I was telling you about like the history pods and like that I would be listening to and
Yeah.
consuming and YouTube history, but I ebb and flow in that. Um, it's funny because do you know Ryan Russillo,
Yeah.
the podcaster? So he's a huge history buff, but he likes reading it. And
Mm.
he said it was a great way to engage in something and then learn a lot about it. Not obviously there's history, whoever it's gonna always gonna be biased based on who's writing that piece of history.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well,
But I like that idea because and it's something I actually might get into is just picking up a book and reading a history on something
yeah.
so that I can maybe hyper focus on like one aspect because I'm not gonna know everything. Like I don't think like I'm not a history teacher. I don't sit here and like I consume it, but I do want to learn more. But like you said, history is a really interesting.
Okay, so my favorites are, so like I said, I love ancient history the most. That's like going to the megaliths and stuff and these like super ancient ruins, and they're like, how did they make this? And someone's like, they made it with sand tools, and everyone's like, that's impossible. Like that's my favorite by far. Okay, but I also think the places I find the most interesting and I've read the most books of history on are the Middle East, Russia, and yeah, actually, to be honest with you, those are the two I've read the most on. And I don't claim to know a lot. It's just those are the ones I've read.
Mhm.
I think Russia's super freaking cool. Like, I think Russia's like such a hardcore country, dude. Like their history, even like just way back when the Vikings and everything was around, they were just such hard people, and it's so cool. Um, and then the Middle East is just the. I wish that the Middle East wasn't so hot like it was as a war zone, because imagine how cool it would be. Speaking of ancient history, like the Middle East is basically ancient
It's
history.
the cradle of civilization.
Yeah,
It's
so
where
like
Mesopotamia was like that region of the world is
was
like that's why they called it the
yeah,
cradle, right?
yeah.
It's like the oldest of the old.
So like if I, because when I was in England, you saw the, I think it was Sumerians. Was it the Sumerians? Yeah, the Sumerians, and they're like giant. Have you seen them? They're these big lion statues with wings and bearded faces.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah,
Those,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
and I'd love to go see them, but they're in like the craziest like war zone areas, and then on top of that, a lot of them have been blown up in all the wars, which I think is the biggest tragedy. If anyone touches things that old and use it, like war blows them up or anything, like that's fucked up.
Well, that's the sad part about, I mean, Europe as well too, right? Like with all the World War One and World War Two, there was so much ancient history that got destroyed.
Yeah,
But I mean, the Middle East isn't a stranger, historically speaking, to the destruction of like old ancient things. Like even, and I'm not saying that like I'm not going to sit here and tell you like the Bible, and I'm not going to convert. We're not going to go into a whole Christianity spiel here, but
yeah,
during those times, there are plenty of wars where significant areas of the world were destroyed. Right? It's just
yeah,
something that's definitely not exclusive to what's happening now. I think the Middle East, there's so much history that we've already lost because of war.
yeah. Well, there's that. Yeah, that one. It's, I don't, it makes sense to me. I don't know if it actually is. It's like, I feel like the true history of the world is from all the people that have lost. Because, like you said, like everyone knows that saying, like the the victor writes history or whatever it is, like
Yeah.
right. But that to a point is like they're always going to cover up what they did wrong to make it seem like they were the good guys. So it's like we never actually know the whole true story. You can, but all you can really guarantee is what we know now isn't the full correct story. It doesn't mean it's like completely wrong,
Mhm.
but it's like, well, yeah, everything we know has been, we're hearing it because it's from who's won so far, kind of
Yeah.
thing, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So I love history, ancient history. I think that stuff's all sweet. And another thing that I've got into, this is so, I'm a massage therapist.